Someone's going to go for 2 and get it at some point.
It's 1:42 in the morning.
Yeah, that's all right. Number 1. Shocker. Iron.
Man, give me the Trojans.
There we go.
Welcome into Overtime, presented by Perfection One. Along with John Bruce, my name is Dewey Dailey, as we welcome you into this week's episode 64 here on the podcast. We've got a few new milestone scores we're going to go over, but I think this is going to be the only week where, well, I guess the boys tournament doesn't no, it starts this week. Is this the only week where both district tournaments will be going on? Is next week it'll be regionals for girls, and the boys will really start getting going into the districts. We've got some updates for our girls brackets. We're going to go over...
Too bad.
Not too bad to start. We're going to go over our boys brackets that we picked over the weekend. And then we've got some games that we're going to recap like we normally do here on the show. So this is about as kind of evenly spread out, I think, as any of these district shows is going to be. As I think next week will be a little more boys oriented, because we'll obviously go over some of the district winners on the girls side, but I think we already know who a few of those are going to be. So, and
then we'll be down to like 7 girls teams, 6 girls. Well, it could be less depending on what happens in Division 3. So, it just kind of, we'll see. I think we're going to have pretty good coverage on Saturday, where I know we're going to be streaming one game, and there's going to be some coverage spread out there. It's several different spots, so that kind of can limit things, especially if we're streaming on the writing. But I think we're going to have pretty good coverage of it from what I was told. But we'll see.
The card is usually subject to change around here. So, all right, we can go ahead and jump into the headlines. I think we'll start off with the most impressive one. I think that's usually how you're supposed to do it, is lead with your best. We're going to talk about Myles Montgomery, his 2,000th point over the weekend down at Eastern, a big win over the number 1 seed in Division 6 for the Falcons, another dominant win for Minford. Montgomery averaging 22 points per game in his career at Minford. Was Trey Robertson the last 2,000 point scorer we had in the Southeast District? So good company there for Montgomery.
He would need to do a similar tournament run to what Trey did to catch Trey, because Trey was a little over 2,200. So I believe he's the top in the boys in the SOC history. I believe Trey is. The girls is Marlene Stallings from Eastern Pike, obviously.
Anybody's touching that?
No, not with the running clock or anything like that. But the big thing for me, when I was looking through some of this stuff, like, it's nice when he's at the even number, because then you can kind of figure out the average at that point. But each of his 4 years, they have not played 22 regular season games. So he's missed out on 1 game every year. So that's why he's only at the 91 career game mark. And
I mean, the last couple of years, they haven't, maybe you think they'd make it past the district round. I think this year, obviously, they're probably going to do a little better than that. So but he'll definitely get a few extra games, I think, at the regional level.
Yeah, he's been outstanding throughout his whole career. And just watching them on Saturday, they weren't forcing it. The only time they kind of forced it was the start of the fourth quarter when he had 28. They're like, okay, go get your 2, and then you're going to come out, because it was a very decisive victory for them. But yeah, he gets his points in a variety of ways. Early in his career, it was a lot of fast breaks and threes. Then it looked like it was a little more threes. Last year, it seemed like it was way more threes. This year, it's almost, when we've been there, it's almost exclusively driving into the mid-range. Saturday, he hit 1 3 against Eastern Pike, and it's just the way his game has kind of evolved is kind of, it's been really impressive. I mean, they've got some really nice teammates as well. Obviously, Bennett Kaiser over 1,000. He's going to be just an outstanding player at the next level as well. Obviously, Myles is going to be as well. But then you have Jackson Shoemaker, who I think started off scoring a little bit more early. He had 6 assists the other night. I mean, they moved the ball so well. Ashton Reeder had 9 in that game. So they're doing things. Like, I was so impressed with what I saw of them, because I've seen Eastern multiple times this year, and that was the first time where they didn't substantially look like they should be in the game or the better team. I don't think I'd seen them lose, even so with Eastern. But it was just really impressive for Minford, and it all goes. It starts with the point guard, and then obviously Kaiser's been awesome throughout this year, the last 2 years. But yeah, they've won a lot of games the last 2 seasons or last 4 seasons really, and it starts with Myles and then continues on throughout that. It's a good coaching staff. It's a good roster.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go real deep. They don't have a ton of depth that they play, but it seems like Reeder and Glockner are getting more confident by the day, and that's just going to make them better on down the line.
And I think it's safe to say Montgomery probably the running favorite for Southeast District Player of the Year in Division 5. I mean,
Man.
I think Division 5 might have the most set-in-stone district first team.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you just look at the top 4 seeds with Minford, Fairland, Chesapeake, and Ironton. I mean, you're going to have the duo of Kaiser and Montgomery. You're going to have Buchanan on there. Kazie's probably going to be on there. And then I'd be surprised if Braden Schreck wasn't on there as well.
And that's leaving off really good players from Zane Trace, Eastern.
Right, you figure Gunnar McCullough has a good shot to be on there. I think, is Colgrove Division 5?
Yep.
I mean, Owen Johnson's probably a leading candidate to make that list. I think you said, what is it, usually like 7 players on the first team?
It used to be just 5, but now
that's what I figured.
Now I think it's more spread out. But the girls' list was different because I think they did like divisions together. So we'll kind of see how they do it on this one. I think there's more teams in Division 5 to where they can probably justify doing just the one. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think the writers that do it are going to have, because with Kaiser and Montgomery, they could cancel each other out in the votes and then you have Buchanan.
They're both averaging like 25 points per game.
But then you have Buchanan who's averaging 20, and
he's had a good year.
Yeah, and
I think Kazie, maybe if he was a senior, would be a little more likely. But I think since he's a sophomore, that kind of puts him out of the Player of the Year.
Hopefully, he can make the first team, because usually first team all district, especially in the AP, usually gets you in all Ohio at least mentioned. Player of the Year usually is on one of the first 2 or 3 teams, and it's always nice to see. But man, the Southeast in Division 5 this year is so talented and so deep that it would be nice to see the Southeast get some big representation on those all Ohio teams. That who knows if it'll happen? It usually doesn't, despite what our area can show, especially at the top. But we'll kind of see. I think it's going to be really interesting to see where that goes. I think maybe Minford wouldn't mind Montgomery and Kaiser splitting it if possible. Right. But yeah, I don't think the good thing about those two, and I think that entire Minford team, just from being around them and soccer and whatnot, and Kaiser and Montgomery, or Kaiser and Shoemaker weren't even on the team, but they were at every game and going crazy in the crowd. They just seem to really like each other. They seem to really get along, and I don't think a Player of the Year vote one way or the other is going to really impact the way those guys carry themselves, where it might impact other teams along the line, and I don't think you'll see it out of Minford.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the rest of our headlines here on episode 64 of the podcast. We have a pair of 1,000-point scores we're going to go over. I believe D6 and D7 are where these two players reside. We'll start with the D6 player, Braylon Robertson from Paint Valley, scoring his 1,000th career point. Obviously, he's a freshman at Waverly, the last 3 seasons at Paint Valley altogether, reaching the 1,000-point mark. Been a big player for Paint Valley this season. Him and Free have been a really good duo for the Bearcats. And a good milestone for Braylon Robertson.
Yeah, he kind of evolved as a player throughout. As a freshman, he scored 5 points in the state semifinals for Waverly, coming off the bench for them, and was a big player for them, obviously on a regional championship team, then moves over to Paint Valley. And as a sophomore, I believe he was their leading scorer, but they also had, actually, no, he wasn't, because it was Dax Estep was their leading scorer. So he kind of mixed in, was kind of a threat, probably running the point a little bit more that year, but setting things up and getting them into their offense. And then last year he started to score a little bit more. This year, Free has kind of taken a step forward, but I think some of that's probably going to go to that injury he had late in football where, he sat out the 2 weeks and then played. And as someone who also probably sat out or didn't sit out enough when they played, like when they're in school, it hampers you a good bit. You try not to show it, but I'm sure that's hampered him a little bit this year. But yeah, he's averaging 13.5 points a game this year. The Bearcats aren't having the season that I think they would like, 7-15 right now, but they are a team that, if Valley hadn't put it on them so much the first time, maybe I would say are capable of an upset, but it really wouldn't surprise me because I think in that first game against Valley, I think Free had 3 fouls in the first half, and he's averaging like 16 and 10. So if you don't have that takes away a big part of your team. But Robertson, all-time leading rusher in Paint Valley football history, which I think if you know anything about Paint Valley football, that's a major thing, and he did that early this year as well. So he's been an outstanding athlete for Paint Valley, started at Waverly, but I believe he's going to go on and play college football as well. So he's been a really talented athlete in the area, and he's the type of kid that, you don't like playing against because of how hard he plays, how physical he plays, even though he's a little smaller on the height wise, but he'll play whatever position. I'm trying to remember the game this year where I think it was Piketon. He played on the inside against a kid that's 6'6", and Robertson's about 5'9", and did a good job on him. I think he held him well below his average, and I think he scored, but I'm not 100% sure he scored. But it was because of the defense that he could do. So he's been an all-around player for Paint Valley, but it's nice to get that accomplishment along the way as well.
And then one other 1,000-point score from this past week for the Green Bobcats, a big performance. We were talking about Montgomery's 30-point game. For Jon Knapp, a 30-point game against Ironton St. Joe to not 2,000 points, but reach that 1,000-point mark.
Yeah, and only a junior. So, I mean, that's a nice thing for him. So wouldn't be surprised if he gets 1,350, 1,400, maybe even more, just because you can see it sometimes as a senior. These players have big games, but he can score at a variety of different ways for them. He can really shoot it from the outside as well. But when I saw him as a freshman, he was one of the big time players. I believe he came off the bench for Green that year, but he had a huge game in the district semis, had a big one in the finals, and that team reached the regional semis. So, I mean, he's been a really good player for them for 3 years, and, will continue on. He's a really good pitcher in baseball as well. I think, did you stream
it? We didn't stream it, but saw him at the VA.
Yeah. So he's been an outstanding,
because they lost in the district semis, right? So we only did the district finals, I believe. So
yeah, he's been a.
Did they lose to Eastern?
May have been. It was either Eastern or Southern. I don't remember which one it was.
Did we do Southern?
I think
Carson must have done that because I don't even remember doing Southern.
Yeah, Carson's the Southern guy, but yeah, for Knapp, he's been multi-sport athlete. He's been a standout for them. Obviously, you hear the name Knapp. You know his mom's the outstanding basketball coach on the girls' side. His sister is the outstanding sophomore, but man, he can really play too. Green right now, 11-11. They host Miller in their tournament opener on Thursday. I think they can win that game. The Falcons, it's not a short trip for them. And, if I'll kind of point it out, they're like in here, like in this like general area. I used to think they were over here. So they are not remotely close to where I used to think they were, but every once in a while you see Miller at the Convo, but I don't think it'll be there this year, as I think Green will get them on Thursday. But yeah, congratulations to all three players. Outstanding accomplishments. And, that's what happens when you've put in so much work throughout your life to be able to play at a high level. And it's always nice to see those be rewarded because of that hard work you put in.
All right, so we're going to change up the order this week since we're revealing our boys basketball brackets. Kind of feel like that's like the main event of the show, so we're going to save that for last, and we're going to do the girls basketball side first. It's going to be relatively brief this week. We're just going to quickly go over the district quarterfinal and also some of the district first round games that took place last week, and go over some of the picks we got right, some of the picks we got wrong. And we'll go through. I think we're going to talk a little bit about Division 3 because we're doing one of those games on Wednesday, but mainly D4 through D7, and then we'll preview 2 games, and then that's really it for the girls' side. Is you can't really preview district. You can guess, but you can't really preview district finals that you don't know who's going to play in them. So,
and the reason why,
kind of tough.
If you look at Division 3, because I don't think we would have predicted that it was going to be Sheridan and Unioto in the district semifinal.
But it's like really that's like it's the district semi, but that's like the Southeast District final because
they'll meet up with the East, which I think would be on Saturday. So is
that at Logan too?
I think so, but so it's for Division 3. We didn't do picks because there's only a few games in there, but Sheridan ended up upsetting Marietta. Marietta, who came into the last week of the season with no losses, ended up losing to Waterford, kind of substantial loss. I think they were down 16 in the fourth, ended up being like 9 or 11. And, Sheridan goes on the road to Marietta and beats them. So they will move on to face Unioto, who had a pretty sizable win over a pretty good Athens team as well. So that's kind of Division 3 in general. So we're going to preview that game because that's going to be our Wednesday coverage on that. But in Division 4, the Dewmeister got a 1-game lead on me because I picked Courthouse. He picked Gallia. Gallia wins that. Everything else is kind of chalk along the way. Fairfield Union with a very sizable win over Gallia Academy to move on into Division 4. They will face Hillsborough, who had a 4-point win over Warren. I got that right. Dewey did not, so we're balanced on that. Circleville with a sizable win over Logan Elm. Kiana Ingram had a really big tournament, though. I think she had 49 points in the 2 games, so she's really good. So look for her in the future for Logan Elm. And then McLean barely hung on to beat South Point. So it was a 32-31. South Point had a corner 3, missed it, and then just got a putback, but didn't get the time. I think they didn't get credited with the timeout, or they did. It was like a 10th of a second. But either way, moving on is McLean. So this week on I'm so bad at these days. On Wednesday, it'll be Fairfield Union against Hillsborough and Circleville against McLean. We will have the winners of that on Saturday over at Southeastern. That's a 5:00 game. So the winners of Fairfield Union and Hillsborough versus
I'm just glad that's a 5:00 game. I'm glad they went 12. What is it? 12, 2:30, and 5, and not like 4, 6, and 8 or something. Right. We're gonna get out of there about 7:00, and it'll be nice. We could, or Applebee's. Oh.
Well, no, I ain't paying full price. So I'm just being honest. Moving on to Division 5, pretty much chalk in this along the way. I did miss one because I'm silly. So I missed. I had West Union over Chesapeake. Chesapeake stood their ground at home and won that. Everything else was the higher seeded team or the better seeded team, which means on Monday, which is being played now, Portsmouth against Piketon at the downtown gym in Waverly, and Huntington against Alexander. Those are district semifinals. The final of that will be Saturday at 12, which by the end of this show, we could probably tell you, actually, maybe by now, but by the end of the show, we could probably tell you.
We could have told you yesterday what they were going to be, but
you never know.
Yeah,
I mean, they finished with 4 players 2 years ago, so maybe they get a bunch of fouls, but I don't think it matters. Then into 2's at the bottom, right? So we'll bounce to 2, Southeast 2, which will be Minford taking on Chesapeake. That'll be on Wednesday at the downtown gym, and Wheelersburg taking on River Valley. I think that's got a chance to be a really sneaky good game, and with River Valley plays a pretty nice schedule. They challenge themselves in the non-conference. Wheelersburg's had an outstanding season with 20 wins, but I think ultimately, we both picked Minford and Wheelersburg in that, and we had the exact same picks across the board anyway, until the final of that one, which you took Wheelersburg, I took Minford. That will be the 5:00 final.
Same time as us.
Yeah, at the same time as us. That'll be at the downtown gym. I think Derek was talking about covering those 3 games over there, but we'll kind of see on that. That'll get announced throughout the week as well. And then on Tuesday at the downtown gym, you've got Fairland against Ironton for the third time, and then North Adams against Adena, which we'll preview here in a few minutes. On that game, I think that's got a chance to be the best game of this district semifinal round. Maybe Huntington and Alexander as well, but the winners of those games will face off at 2:30 on Saturday at the downtown gym, with the winner of that game going to the Southwest in the regionals. The winners of the 12 o'clock and 5 o'clock games will stay in the Southeast. So that is on Saturday as well. Moving on to, I was on the wrong side. I was on Division 7. We ain't skipping ahead, bud. Division 6. This is where things started to break down for Dewey. And by breakdown, I mean he missed one. But I had Valley. He took Lynchburg. He took the lower seeded team, and Valley ended up getting the win there. Everything else was chalk along the way, which means on Monday also, we've got these games are at Southeastern. This is being played right now. Federal Hawking against Valley, which is the 1-8 game. And then you got Eastern Brown
and West.
And West. That'll be a really good one. That'll be a nice game.
Did we both pick Eastern Brown on that one?
No, you took West.
I took West.
Yeah, I took Eastern Brown.
I don't think there's any live stream of that, which is kind of wild.
Right. Then when I watched the live stream of Eastern against Eastern, I probably would have taken West because Eastern's not nearly as big as I thought they're going to be. You lost your pin cap. This happens like during our live stream games too.
Worried about it?
Well, I screwed up how to use the highlighter anyway, so you're probably not going to be able to use it anymore. But yeah, Eastern Brown and West play at 8 o'clock tonight at Southeastern, so we won't see that one as well. But then Tuesday at Southeastern will be Belpre against Coldgrove, which I think could be an interesting game. And then White Oak against Ripley for the third time. I think the last one was like an 8-point game, and both of those went to White Oak. So the winners of those will play. The winners of those games, district finals, will be Saturday at Southeastern. 12 o'clock is the winner of Fed Hawk and Valley, and Eastern Brown and West. And 2:30 will be the winners of Belpre Coldgrove and White Oak Ripley. So 12 and 2:30 there. And then moving on to Division 7, Clay knocked off New Boston for the first time this year. I don't really know how they got the home game in there, but New Boston wins.
I mean, obviously, their non-conference must have been
a little better. Yeah. But Clay wins that one. That was our big difference on this. So I got the advantage there. So I missed 2. Dewey missed 3 for the opening rounds so far. We don't have a whole lot of differences. I think we have more differences on the boys' side, but you'll kind of get into that.
Is the only difference we have like Minford and Wheelersburg from here on out? Is that it?
I took White Oak over Belpre.
Oh, we have West and Eastern Brown tonight.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of differences there.
I think that's it. Yeah, because we both picked Circleville, Fairfield Union.
And I couldn't pick against Fairfield Union again. I'm like 0 for 5.
So we have like 3 more differences, so there's not a whole lot of wiggle room. But,
But, I mean, that's kind of the problem with it being so many divisions where we don't have a ton of depth right now across the Southeast District. But I think that'll come with more of this. But, it was chalk there as well. So Clay wins. Moving on, everybody else was the better seeded team. On Monday, also, Waterford plays Clay. As they're down at Wellston, Notre Dame against Trimble, which I think could be a good game. In the 4-5, the winners of that will move on to Saturday at Wellston to play at 2:30, and then on Tuesday at Wellston will be Green against Sims Valley, and then South Gallia against Southern. The winners of that will play at 5 o'clock on Saturday as well. That could be a really interesting final with South Gallia, if it would be South Gallia and Green.
They played the season.
They played earlier this season.
First week. I know it was the first game for Green, and they won by like 5, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what game it was for South Gallia, but
it was early, and it seems like South Gallia has been playing well lately. I mean, they won the league.
What other team in the last...
I'm excited for this.
This is such a bad question. So this was a spring sport. what team opened up with a team and lost to them and then finished the year losing to them in the district final? So they lost to them their first game of the season and then lost to them in the district final. So they opened their season with a loss to them and finished their year with a loss to them. Spring sport.
From Millersburg?
No, it's Unioto Hillsboro.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
we lost to them at
Oh,
Hillsboro.
then, yeah.
I
I didn't know you guys lost to them that year. Oh, they were really good, weren't they? And we should have beat them. Bad officiating. No,
We
like
kinda got-
legitimately was like it was.
yeah.
There's 3 guys on the field. 2 of the 3 did their job. The third one called an out on a play that wasn't in his position. It had hit the ground. They came out celebrating, and it stopped the play because of that. So because of that, they had to move the runners back.
That was a crazy district final because we
Yeah.
were like the 5 seed and they were like the 8 or something. Like because we beat Miami Trace and Waverly, who I think were the 1 and 2.
It wouldn't have been 1 and 2.
or
I think
something.
it was 4. I think Waverly was the 4, and I think
We were 5.
Yeah, because we're on the road. I got hit in the head with a foul ball off the dugout at Waverly that day.
There you go.
It's a good start.
All right, are we all? I don't know where that cap went. I think it might be out in front of the table. It may have rolled in front. Yeah, I figured that's where it was at. I figured that's where it was, but I didn't want to get up like you just did. So,
Well, you were like digging around looking for it. And
yeah, I didn't know where it went. It's kind of cold now. All right, so we'll probably do one final run through on the girls brackets next week. I'm probably not going to put up pictures this week for this bracket just because I'm also putting up pictures of the boys brackets. So you're just going to have to either look back to last week's episode and kind of sync together what we just said with how our brackets look, or you can just kind of listen through. But through the district quarterfinal round, because the semis haven't been played, Bruce has a 1-game lead on me. So
Odoro rules, and you don't get that.
And like I said, I will not be putting pictures of those because I already have to do like 8 pictures for the boys.
Here's how the show works. I show up, I open the studio, I turn the lights on. Dewey does literally everything. Like sometimes, like I'll do a lot of the prep stuff, but like Dewey does all the editing. And positive for me, we get paid the same.
That is true.
The negative for both of us is we get paid the same. But yeah, it ends up, the work balances itself out a little bit, but he's also in his last semester of college, and I'm not. So,
all right, we can go ahead and
jump. Got 2 degrees though.
We can go ahead and jump.
You got to catch up there.
We can go ahead and jump into the 2 game previews for this week. We're going to go over 2 district semis, one in Division 5, one in Division 3. And we'll start off with one at the Waverly Downtown Gymnasium Tuesday night between the Adena Warriors and North Adams Green Devils. It's a 17-6 Adena team and an 18-5 North Adams team coming off of their 3rd consecutive Shack 1 championship. And it's an Adena team that I think is a little bit underrated coming out of the SVC. They had that big win. I think it was their last regular season game against Hillsboro with Marley Halcomb hitting right side 3-pointer to put them over the top against Hillsboro. A lot of momentum headed into the tournament for the Warriors.
Yeah, if you didn't see that play, you probably didn't see our Twitter because we put it out there and I technically called it. But if you remember the Bryce Drew Valparaiso shot, which probably is older than a lot of people, it's older than Dewey. It was pretty much the same play where they threw it down court, catch it, and hit the shooter on the run, and then Halcomb buries the triple to win the game at the buzzer. Yeah, they've been building momentum. They're a well-coached team. I saw them late in the season at Huntington, which we did a live stream of, and man, they were very impressive with what they were able to do ball movement wise and just kind of all around. So they've gotten better throughout the year. I think they were, they were a little underseeded, but it's all based on the computers. But if you used every regular season game like you should, they are probably moving up because of that win over Hillsboro. But because we don't count every regular season win like we do in football, it's it ends up being kind of a bummer for Adena in that way. But yeah, they've been playing a lot better. They're 17-6. They're led by sophomore Marley Halcomb, 16.8 points a game, about 5.5 rebounds a game. Corinne Day, a senior, 9.7 points a game, 5 rebounds a game. JC Smith, only a junior, six assists a game. She led the SVC in that. She also was up near the top in steals as well. Doesn't score a whole lot, but really makes a lot of stuff happen. And then they don't go super deep on their bench, but they use Cameron Sowers as a defensive stopper. Ava and Olivia Farrell, kind of interchangeable shooters that can come in and defend as well. JC Jones is a name to look for. She's only a freshman. She seemingly has came alive a little bit late in the season, had a nice game in their first tournament game. So if she can help them a little bit depth wise, I think that will give them a little bit more of a chance, because they're going to have to deal with a lot of size with North Adams. As you mentioned, Shack won champions for the third straight year, led by Caitlin Berger, a senior, 14.5 points, 8 rebounds a game. Then Emma Pistol, only a junior, 8.2 points a game. And then a couple more seniors, Tatum Grooms, around 8 points a game. Carly Kennedy, just under 7 points a game as well. So for North Adams, they're a program they've been in the regionals the last couple of years. They've been, they had the comeback of the year last year, or was that 2 years ago in their district final?
It was a couple of years ago against Fairfield.
Yeah, against Fairfield, I think they were down either 8 or 10.
They're down 10 with like 3 minutes left.
And 12-0 run?
Yeah. They were down 10, and I don't think Fairfield scored again.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they've been really talented. They got to the regional final last year. I think they expected a slight step back this year because you lost a couple of really talented players, Kinley Jones, Harley Brand. I think there may have been another one in there, but those two really made things go for them. But they've won another Shack title. They've gotten to the district semifinals once again. I think this is a really good matchup. It's going to be an interesting one because the size difference in the two teams is North Adams is going to go inside a lot more, but they'll also run with you. And, Adena is going to run through everything. And they're going to really, they're going to make you sit down and play some really good defense as well. So I think that's going to be a really interesting game.
I mean, we saw North Adams really compete for about 3.5 quarters at home against Hillsborough, because they had that boys-girls doubleheader when we were down there for the boys game, and that obviously ended up being a really good game.
Would have been nice if we realized that before.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know it until, we got there, oh, man, this would have been good to get, but...
Yeah, but, I think... And North Adams is 18-5, but I think just with the way that the Division 5 tournament is set up, and you have your top 4 of... Portsmouth, Fairland, Minford, and Wheelersburg, North Adams maybe gets overlooked a little bit.
Right.
And I think Adena does too. I don't think typically an 18-5 team is, what are they, the 5 seed or 6 seed, and then Adena 17-6 is the 8 seed. So I think both of these teams, a lot of other years, maybe in last year's format, would have been seeded a little bit higher. Just kind of based on some, Fairland wouldn't have been in this division last year.
They beat Huntington twice.
Yep.
So maybe they jumped them in the normal.
That's what's crazy to me. But
and then you got Piketon, who's only down. They're down 13 at the half on Portsmouth. They're the 12th seed, and
they beat Adena twice.
Yeah.
So so I will say
that was the SVC this year.
I will say the series is between Adena, Piketon, and Huntington just made no sense, because Piketon couldn't beat Huntington, but they could beat Adena, but Adena beat Huntington, and it's okay. Everybody just swept each other, but then they all obviously when you look I said it a bunch, if you exclude Unioto from the SVC, it may have been the most competitive conference, because you still had Zane Trace and Westfall, who I don't think either of them beat either of those top 3. No, but they competed with them. The only outlier really I think was Paint Valley. Did Paint Valley have a league win?
They had one league win.
Did they beat? Who did they beat? Westfall or St. Trace? Oh, Southeastern. I forgot about Southeastern.
Well, Southeastern had two.
Southeastern beat Waverly.
Yeah, and had 2 6'2" girls that can both score and rebound at a pretty high clip. So, yeah, it was a pretty solid league this year. There's probably you may not even get a team to 20 wins, because we'll talk about that here in a minute. But you've a 14-0 team, and then 3 teams that went 10-4. And then, as you mentioned, Westfall, Zane Trace were competitive. Southeastern fell off a little bit late in the year, but even them, as you mentioned, they beat Waverly. So I mean, they were a solid team throughout the year, at least the first half. But yeah, it was. I'm interested to see how that Adena and North Adams game, kind of plays out. Hopefully, there's some sort of stream available. I'm sure we'll have some sort of coverage because I'm not available Tuesday, so
What'd you just say?
I just hope there's something that like there's a stream or something on Tuesday to where I can watch it, even though I can't get down there.
Right. I would figure.
I think I mumbled it.
I would figure good guys would hopefully be at that one. But
Yeah.
they're also not at Eastern Brown and West tonight, which I kind of figured that's where they'd be at, since that's like Eastern Brown probably the favorite in that one, even though I didn't pick them. But
yeah, they're the 4 seed. West was the
I think
5.
Do you know where they're at instead?
Uh-uh.
Wellston and West Union. Which, maybe they hadn't covered West Union this season and they're trying to get everybody, and they're in West Union probably going to win that game.
But they're also,
and it's probably closer. They
might be in West Union.
It is at West Union.
No, the station might be in West Union.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
So I mean, maybe it's just hey,
it's probably not very cost efficient to drive to Southeastern for one game,
right?
But it is what it is. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our second game. We're going to preview, and this is pretty much going to be the last segment for the girls' side until next week's show. It's a preview of our game this Wednesday, Unioto and Sheridan, a rematch of one of the two Southeast District Division II district finals from a couple seasons ago. It's 19-4 Unioto and 19-5 Sheridan. Once again, this is this Wednesday at Logan. It'll actually be the first basketball game I've watched at Logan. I've only seen volleyball there for the past couple of years. One of the better setups in the Southeast District is the Jim Myers Gymnasium. I believe it's a 7 p.m. tip.
Yes.
And that should be pretty accurate because I'm not sure
it's
if there's
the
a game.
game.
I was going to say I didn't think there was a game before it. But we will have this one live on the YouTube channel as we did a couple of years ago. And I think for all of those in attendance and for all of those that'll be watching at home, I think we're hoping this is just a sliver of what it was 2 seasons ago.
I'll tell you two people that probably don't want it, and it's probably Jeff Miller and JD Walters. They would probably prefer it one way or the other. A little more of a difference between the two. But yeah, it came down to, hey, Unioto was down 15 late in the third and that, maybe going into the fourth, but got a couple big shots from, a couple seniors at the time, and then freshman Miley Smith completely took over. She had a driving layup where she got fouled with about 5 seconds left, missed the free throw, but after a timeout, she gets a steal, floater, misses it, and then gets a tip in at the buzzer. And yeah, it was, and when we say at the buzzer, like it was kind of controversial. Well, not kind of, it was controversial because they don't have the red lights around. The officials got together, they talked about it, they counted it. And really, that ends up being what mattered. And probably for Unioto, it was probably a big break that it counted because when she went down afterwards, she got cramp.
She also got tackled. Yes. I'd say that probably had something to do with it. It's tough to, and she's obviously the player that you would want to do it because she was always just going to get better. But I feel like for a lot of players, that would have been a peaking moment, and you would have never reached, you would not gone downhill, but you would have never reached a moment.
It's hard to get to that again.
Your peaking moment was at a freshman. Your peaking moment was as a freshman. You hit a game winner in a district final, which I think a lot of people would take that over, maybe getting progressively better, but never hitting a game winner in a district final. Now, for her, obviously, it's a little different. Probably going to be the Division III District Player of the Year, or at least finish second in voting.
Could be someone from Marietta in that. I mean, Sheridan's got some talent.
They've obviously got, and they've got some players coming back that are seniors now from that team a couple of years ago. But for Smith, committing to Dayton, still only a junior. It's been on the up her entire career.
Yeah, and I think one of the one of the statewide things that ranks juniors, she's moved up steadily on the list. I think she was 7th in her class, and I think was
that's crazy
2nd. Now the top in their class moved. She was the one that went down to Florida.
Where was she at? Harvest Prep or something?
No, she was at.
No, wait, don't tell me.
The Laurel School. Sorry,
I guess that.
As I say, you told me not to tell you, but she went from the Laurel School down to Mount Verdi and is doing okay down there because I think she's number 1 in the nation. So,
nice.
But yeah, Miley's been unbelievable all year. In the 75-53 win over Athens, she had 33 points the other day. As you mentioned, SVC champions, third straight year, third straight undefeated season in the SVC for the Shermans. They really, Charlotte Dennis, a freshman who had started throughout the year, is out. And so they'll miss her length a good bit, but they've been able to fill in some gaps otherwise, but really it's been mainly four scores for them, even when Dennis was there. But Dennis really helped them rebounding and defensively. But Miley Smith, the Dayton commit, only a junior, 26.8 points a game, 7.5 rebounds a game, 3 assists a game, I think around 3 steals a game, a couple blocks. She's been unbelievable. And the craziest thing is what she was early in her career, shooting wise. She's now shooting 41% from three, and she'll do it. Like she had one on a fast break the other day, and she's just a really talented all around player. Maya Hamilton, a senior, Central Connecticut State commit, 18.8 points a game, 37% from three. She looks like she's getting healthier as the year goes on, coming back from a knee injury that cost her the end of last year. And then Magnolia Holbert, 8.3 points a game, 3.7 assists a game. She's 39% from three. And then Kiera Beard, a freshman, 8.8 points a game, 35% from three. They've got, those four have all hit 35 plus threes on the season. And, they're not just reliant on the three ball because they can all drive as well, but the three ball definitely gives them another advantage over a lot of teams just because of what they're able to do from the outside. They Kendall Walker knocked down a couple deep twos the other day for them. Aiden Dannison, Jade Stewart, other players that step in and provide good minutes for them. But they're going to need 7 to 8 players in that game because Sheridan's going to come in super well coached, a lot of experience as well. When I say super well coached, they've won 9 straight Muskingum Valley League championships. Not bad. In that they were the regional runner-up a year ago, state runner-up 2 or 3 seasons ago, obviously the district runner-up 2 years ago. But Haley Warner, a senior, high Dominican commit. She's a 4-year starter. She had 18 points in their 2-point win over Marietta. Peyton Powell had the game-winning steal and layup to beat Marietta. She had 12 points, 10 rebounds in that game. Ava Heller, going to Marietta, had 9 points against Marietta. She's a senior as well. Addie Schaefer, another senior, and then Lainey Miller, a junior. They've had a bunch of different players give contributions this year. The big stat, which when you throw it out there, the one part of it only matters. But yeah. They're 19-5 on the season. They are 1-5 in games decided by 5 points or less. However, they are 1-0 in their last one, so that's all that matters. So their 5 losses have all been really tight games this year. They have not been blown out. They have really only played 6 games that were decided by 10 points or less.
And I know for sure one of those losses was Fairfield Union,
yes.
Right? And they're what are they 20? Have they played a district quarterfinal game? So they 23-0.
Yeah, they're 23-0. So yeah, they've played a really tough schedule and they've done a really nice job throughout the season. So they were one where I think it was the Marietta people were really looking to the long run,
looking past it. It's a bit of a trap game against Sheridan.
And if Sheridan's your trap game, that's not a fun trap to be in because that's a heck of a program. They've done a great job. And really, Unioto is probably going to go into that game as the favorite, but nothing would surprise me in that game because of what Marietta can do defensively. And when they get hot from the outside, like they have the ability to do, they can pull off the upset. And not sure it's that big of an upset because of their schedule capabilities as well, just like what Unioto has done, where each of them go out and challenge themselves in different showcases and whatnot. And that's why you're going to see some really talented players if you're at Logan or if you're watching on the live stream on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that Unioto Sheridan game is like maybe 3rd or 4th for us all time in terms of total views on one live stream. It was a little over.
It dropped to 3rd.
Because we've had a few. I think the Minford South Webster one this year. What's number 1?
Northwest and Wheelersburg.
Oh, Northwest and Wheelersburg. Yeah, that was like 6.5 or 7.
Yeah.
That was a really That
one was crazy.
Very highly viewed
Shout
game
out
as well.
Everyone,
Mohawk country.
Yeah, Mohawks.
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, it was a very well viewed game, and I think because of how it ended,
right,
probably
a lot
helped
of
some
rewatches.
rewatchability.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this one has the capability to be a really, really good game, and I think it will be. And it's two talented teams, two well coached teams, and two teams that have the reason why they have multiple losses is because of the schedules they played, and it's kind of like Fairland. And even Portsmouth this year, Portsmouth has the one loss. If you see Portsmouth in person, you might be like, how did they lose? But it's because they played a top two schedule in Division 4 or Division 5, and I think it's like a top 10 schedule in the entire state this year. So that's how. So losses happen sometimes.
I mean, we mentioned Sheridan. One of those losses is to one of the, I'm assuming, very few undefeated teams left in the state of Ohio, regardless of division. And we saw Unioto pick up a win at home against a really good Harvest Prep team. So these are two teams that challenge themselves. And like I said, it's a rematch of one of the two Division II district finals in the Southeast District from a couple of seasons ago. So it should be an exciting rematch. Here in the district semi, more or less the district final. In the Southeast District is, like you said, the winner, I believe, plays the East.
Yeah, and the East is, so the East would probably be like a Tri-Valley who split with Sheridan, got Sheridan early. Sheridan beat them by like 14 the second time. So I think they're likely the favorite coming out of the East, but we'll kind of see as time goes by. So that'll be a really fun game to get to.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the boys' side. Going to be really quick because we obviously have a lot to go over with our tournament brackets. We're going to recap one game and preview another, both of them about as big of games as I think you could cook up this year in our coverage area. We'll go ahead and recap the game that we were at last Wednesday. It was Fairland and Chesapeake meeting for the second time in 6 days, as I think this was the one that got snowed out around the first week of January. And it was the second double overtime game between Fairland and Chesapeake in 6 days. And it was the third overtime game in that span for Chesapeake, as they had the double overtime game with Fairland on Friday, an overtime game with Ironton on Monday, and then another double overtime game with Fairland on Wednesday. But it was a 68-62 win on the road for the Dragons to secure the outright OVC title, currently sitting at 20-1. That lone loss to the really good Warren team out of Division 3. Chesapeake falls to 19-3, 12-2. Both of those league losses obviously coming to Fairland, but I mean for Chesapeake it wasn't due to lack of effort. As Maddox Kazee, had a really strong second half. Ethan Kearns, I would assume that's got to be one of his maybe his best game of the season or one of his few best games of the season. But I mean Fairland just. They're tough. Well, they're 20-1. I mean, what else can you say?
Well, with what Chesapeake was able to do, I really like. This was one of those games that you really like to like. I've watched it back as a fan and not just just see how we did. Because sometimes we'll watch back to just sit and like make sure we're doing things the right way. But like this is one I've watched back as a fan because it was just a really, really good game and really competitive game between Buchanan and Kazee. Like they guarded each other, and that's what you want to see. Because he's not a guard, but he's got the length and can do some stuff. And when you look at their point totals, maybe you're like, well, they guarded each other, but they gave up a lot. But it doesn't matter because they were competing hard against each other and had to work for every point they got on the night. And that was a game Brody Buchanan might have been his best shooting game he's ever had, because he was able, with Kazee's length and not being as quick, he gave a little more room, and that's where Buchanan was able to shoot a little bit more, but he was knocking him down on the game. And
was he 5 for 7?
I think it was 5 for 7.
5 for 8.
I think it ended up being 5 for 8 because I think he missed one late, but it was right before he drove.
Nonetheless, that's a lot higher than his 29 or 28% on the season. I mean, he showed up in a big way. Yeah,
big time players step up in big time games. And speaking of that, Ethan Kearns, as you mentioned for Chesapeake, he was 8 for 9 shooting, and the one miss was kind of a rush 3 at the end when they just needed to get a shot off. But he was unbelievable because he, as you mentioned, you said the second half, but really he didn't score in the third. He did. He had 17 in the fourth quarter and in overtime. The second overtime started off with Kazee against Buchanan just going one-on-one, and it was awesome. The big difference in it, you mentioned it, was Buchanan hit a three, which gave them that 1 point advantage throughout. And then when they finally got a stop, they were able to knock down free throws. Cliff Franson came up with some big free throws late. Trevor Locko played really well in that game. And I think the big difference, in, you previewed it last week, just Fairland shoots the ball so well.
Fairland, and it's a game that Keegan Smith, whether he was game planned out or just, it wasn't like he missed a bunch of shots. He just didn't get very many shots. I mean, Cliff Franson and Trevor Locko are just lights out from downtown. I mean, I think Franson missed his first two, but then knocked down like the most contested straight on three I've ever seen. But he's just so much taller, and he shoots it at such a high angle that it's almost hard for anybody that's not his height to get a contest on him. And I'm not sure who came out on him, but it really didn't matter.
It might have been two because it was the end of a quarter, or the end of a half. Yeah.
But he knocked it down. And I mean, Locko, I'm not sure what he finished shooting, but I mean, he was probably over 60 or 70% from deep in the game. And that's what makes it tough is Brody Buchanan, we mentioned, maybe not the best shooter on the outside, at least in comparison to the rest of his team. But when he starts shooting like that and you have to step out on him, he drives past you. If you crash on him, he's got three dudes that are all shooting above 40% from three, being Smith, Locko, and Franson. And it just, I mean, you almost have to pick your poison. Do you want to, see if Buchanan can make maybe a contested layup inside, or do you want to, test your luck on the outside? And I think early on, Chesapeake was testing their luck, and Trevor Locko and Cliff Franson were really not having any of it. And they were laying off of Buchanan. And I mean, Buchanan, not only was he making threes, I mean, he was making some deep threes. Yeah. So, I mean, it was an outstanding performance for Fairland. And, it's going to be a tough path to get there for both of these teams. But
he ended up hitting 6
threes? He had 6? Okay. Yeah. So he's probably 6 for 8. Or 6 for 9.
They had 6 for 11. I don't remember.
6 for 11 from 3. He did not shoot 11.
I was going to say maybe 6 for 10, but
he did have a couple twos that were like right on the line, but he made them. So I don't think he shot 11 threes, but I feel like they probably wouldn't have that wrong. So.
Locko was 3 for 4.
Yeah, Francis was probably like 2 for 5 or something.
Yeah, and it was just, they were, and that's not even mentioning Polson. Polson just does little things right throughout the game for them. I mean, in that game, he had 6 assists, took 2 shots. So, I mean, that's from your center where you're not worrying about forcing it into him because he's just going to find guys. Him and Frecka were just battling in that game as well. It was just a really fun game to watch and get down there. And, it's a long drive, but I will say it is maybe the easiest drive I've ever gone to a new place. And it's, and I'm glad we got down there because it was fantastic atmosphere. They did a good job. They reserved some spots for us, and Coach Matt Combs over at Unioto also got us a table that if it was 2 feet longer was not fitting in the car, but it had enough room, and we were able to get down there, and that made it was just a really good night all around. And Kenneth showed off his climbing abilities to get up into the kind of crow's nest area, and it's just a really good game. Hopefully, no offense to Eastern Brown, but hopefully we see this again in a couple weeks.
But, I mean, even if we don't, I mean, Eastern Brown and Fairland had an instant classic at Shawnee in the middle of December. So it looks like Division 5. And here's the thing. When Minford, and obviously we're looking at a district semi of probably Ironton and Zane Trace, Ironton only lost to Minford by 9, which losing to Minford by 9 is pretty good in comparison. I mean, Minford's average margin of victory is like probably 23 or 24 points, or at least it was when we were there for the South Webster game. So I can't imagine it's dropped a whole lot. So I think some of these Division 5 games are going to be, I think, pretty contested.
Well, and it's without even mentioning, Zane Trace goes down to Jackson, or one of the only teams to win at Jackson this year. And they did it. It ended up being a 4-point game, but they were very much in control, just missed some free throws late that made it a little closer. But that's a really talented team with a lot of seniors. They've had a couple of weird results, but they're a talented team. And, I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for anyone to get through. And, it's going to be a really fun Division 5.
All right. We're going to go ahead and preview one game, a conference title game coming up this Tuesday, I believe, Tuesday night.
Yes.
And then we'll go over our tournament brackets and do our quick picks, quite literally the only 5 regular season games in the Southeast District, which is perfect for us. It's probably going to be our last week of the quick picks just because, and we're only doing, if you notice, we didn't do girls quick picks because there's no more regular season games, and just putting our bracket picks on the quick picks
right,
kind of lame. So this is pretty much it. I think as it stands, I have a 1-game lead on John. So,
but we both picked the same team tonight, didn't we?
Yeah. Southern and Southeastern got pushed back this time. Like 6 of our games got played last week. Between the snow, like 3 different times, sicknesses, we've had a lot of games get canceled. But all right, game we're going to talk about, you probably could figure it out if you're familiar with the area. It's Minford at South Webster Tuesday night, the second meeting this season between the 2 teams. Obviously, 2 number 1 seeds in the Division 5 for Minford and Division 7 for South Webster in the Southeast District tournaments. It was a 57-49 win for the Falcons at home against South Webster. It is now second all-time in views for one game for us, I believe. A lot of people tuned in for that one.
And if it was a tighter finish, probably might have got to 1.
I think it was around 1,300 people were in there in the fourth quarter. So I would imagine the South Webster student run
that'll get a lot
stream will that'll probably get a little. I probably will be too. It'll get a lot of viewership tomorrow night. As this was a makeup game, this was actually supposed to be the first meeting between the 2 teams, but it got pushed back once again because of the because I think we were going to try to go down there for that one at South Webster, but that first week of January, pretty much all of those games except for like Washington Courthouse and Jackson got postponed.
It was a 1-point game.
It was 30-29. But we've talked about
it was also, I was going to say, also a 59-point game.
That is true. But we've talked about a lot of these players all season long, right? Bennett Kaiser and Myles Montgomery, 2 of the top players, maybe the 2 top players in Division 5 in the Southeast District. Then you have Eli Roberts, another strong season for the senior. I mean, is there any reason he's not District Player of the Year in Division 7? Right. So, I mean, it's a matchup between 2 of the best in the Southeast District, no matter what division you talk about. And ultimately, the SOC 3 titles on the line. Minford looking for an outright title, and South Webster looking for a share. So last year, Wheelersburg won it outright, and then I think South Webster finished second because Wheelersburg swept Minford, and then they split with South. You know where I'm getting at, because I think South Webster just had
and South Webster split with Minford.
So were they tied for second last year?
No, Minford was 7-3. So Wheelersburg was 9-1.
Oh, the Wheelersburg didn't have an out. So Wheelersburg split with South Webster.
Yeah. But they won the league.
Right. I didn't know they. Yeah. I thought Wheelersburg went 10-0 in the league last year. I didn't know they split. So, did Minford? I would have to look it up. I'm not sure when Minford's last conference title was. Did they?
It was 2 years ago.
Well, did they win it 2 years ago? Okay, I wasn't sure if they got it a couple of years back.
Yeah, they were ridiculous 2 years ago because that was. I think they had Johanna still.
Johanna was there. Adam Crank was there.
Yeah, and then the other 3 guys that are still there.
Right.
Yeah. So speaking of that, you also mentioned Jackson Shoemaker in there, Kate Glockner, Ashton Reeder. They started to get some more contributions from their bench as well. So we'll see what they do. Defensively, they did a really good job on South Webster's secondary players. The last time it was in that game, it was really Eli Roberts and Bo Stevens were the only ones that Christian White had a decent game as well. Those are the only 3 that really scored.
Christian White, I thought, was a difference maker in that game for them.
I mean,
right. I mean, what a difference in the way he plays from last year. I mean, last year when we saw him at Minford, it was almost like he was scared to shoot. But I mean, he was letting shot. What did he make? 2 or 3 threes that night? And I don't think that's maybe something Minford expected. And it ultimately, like you said, kept South Webster in that game, him and Barnard both, because it was really a tough night for Schubert. And it was White, Barnard, and obviously Eli Roberts that really kept him in it. But Minford just ultimately too much down the stretch.
But I think the game that switched it for White last year was Minford at South Webster.
Did he come on late?
He had a big three late in that game, and I think it was almost like you're not going to shoot it. Just go ahead and take the shot. And he knocked it down because when they got to the convo, he was also a willing shooter, not as willing as he was down at Minford, but it was more willing where there was a couple guys, he was one of the ones last year where it was like, Barnard needs to be in more because he can do something offensively, where White then kind of flipped the switch a little bit and was able to really contribute big time in that Minford game, kept them alive for a good bit of it because Robertson didn't have his normal game either, but that happens when you have those matchups. So in the first matchup, it was, Kaiser and Montgomery combined for 48 points in that game. Maybe it was 49. They were like right at their average combined, where South Webster, it was Roberts and Schubert coming in, were well below their average. And that was the difference in the game because the secondary players, secondary scorers, were a little bit more balanced, but ultimately Minford was able to get it because of what the Stars were able to do. But I think if Bo Stevens, Christian White have those same games, I think Schubert's going to have a bigger performance in that one on Tuesday. So either way, I think it's going to be a really good matchup down at Bloom Vernon. So I know, like I said, we'll be watching. I hope Malachi's calling it.
Yeah.
So
here's for South Webster. And here's what I'll say.
They haven't won the league in like 19 years. I think it was since their year they won the state championship.
They haven't even had a share of it. For South Webster, and this was the case last year, I think, because last year Minford beat them by 9 the first time around. And I don't think really anybody gave South Webster a chance. I think they won in overtime last year at home. So I mean, it's kind of the exact same thing. I mean, right before the tournament, they meet again. I think everybody thinks Minford's going to win, but then it's South Webster pulling away in overtime. This year for the Jeeps, what do you think? I mean, is there any game plan you're changing from the first time around, or is it just we need more shots to fall this time?
I think you just got to have those other guys be aggressive, because if your entire team is aggressive, then that's going to open things up for Eli Roberts. Because
do you think he should maybe
he's got to
play a little more inside out than outside in? And that I'll say this, I think he. And oddly enough, I think Cliff Franson is in this conversation. He might be one of the best stretch bigs because we've seen Kaiser start to shoot a little bit on the outside, but it's still not his game. For Roberts, I mean, just from what I've seen of him, it seems like he would almost rather take a long three maybe than go battle inside. We saw him, maybe try to post up a little bit, but not get an entry pass.
But when he posted, it wasn't like, give me the ball. It was like, look, I'm posted.
They kind of maybe just running through the motions. So do you think maybe that's something he should look to do more, or is there another approach you would take if you're South Webster offensively?
It's really not his game, but
because he obviously loses the insane height advantage with Minford, with Shoemaker and Kaiser on the inside.
But it opens the floor more if he's able to get a couple balls in there, because then it's going to make it to where they got to crash down on him, and that's going to open shooters up. I just looked it up last year. Tyler Summer had 27 in that game. So someone's got to step up, because Roberts only had 16 in there, which is still a good game in a big game. Right. But someone's got to step up for them in a big way. But ultimately, for Roberts, I think if he gets the ball inside, he's got to really want it. Because really, against Berlin Highland last year, they had a size advantage with him inside. They got him the ball, and he stayed inside and scored a bunch. And then the last play of regulation, where they had a chance to win it, they had him dribble the ball in, where he's probably going to get the ball inside again. But instead of it being a long two to end the game, where I think if he's able to score inside early, that's going to open everything else up for his teammates, or he just stays outside. I think for me, I would say stay in to start and then step out on occasion, because when he starts to connect from the outside, it really opens things up as well. But they were able, whenever he was inside and not getting the ball, that just congests everything on the drives. So I think that's where Schubert really, was able to be completely controlled that night, was because he had no driving lanes, because if he was inside, that drive
he didn't take very many shots.
No.
I think he took 4 shots the whole night. So Yep.
Ultimately, I think, if Roberts is able to get over 20, that's going to make this team really dangerous. But if Minford holds him under 20, then I think it's going to be another Minford win, but we'll kind of see.
All right. You want to do quick picks before the tournament
Let's
stuff?
go
All
quick picks before.
so these are quite literally the only 5 regular season games, to my knowledge, in the Southeast District this week. We're obviously going to pick Minford and South Webster. We also have Northwest at Eastern. This was one of our picks from last week that got moved to, I think, Wednesday night is when they're making this one up. South Gallia at Oak Hill, another SOC2 matchup, and then Nelsonville York at Wellston. So Wellston's season could be over as they finish up league play, as they have
that sucks to do.
they have a tournament game against West Union tonight, and then we have Logan at Taze Valley, an OCC matchup. So we've got about 4 seconds. This will probably be our last round of quick picks. And we'll start with Minford at South Webster. I'm still picking first as I currently hold a 1-game lead. I know I said that this was kind of the same story last year. Minford wins the first meeting at home and then probably a majority favorite heading into the second meeting. Like you said, I think for South Webster, they got to have some of the guards step up in a big way. For Minford, I've just seen them play like an unbeatable form of basketball so often this season. I'm just going to stick with the Falcons on this one.
I'm a game back. Give me the Jeeps. But that's not the only reason. I do think Eli Roberts has a big game in this one. I think Schubert has more of a big game. Somebody else is going to have to step up for them because you get the top twos against each other. As I said, I am a game back, so I am making that game up here.
You got to take any toss-up chance you can get. Yeah, there are a couple here.
And I think last year, as you mentioned, Minford wins at home, loses at South Webster. This is a lot of pressure. It's going to be the same size crowd. It's going to be a massive crowd at South Webster on Tuesday. If you're going, get there early. If you're watching this on your way down and it's like 5 o'clock, you ain't getting in. So big game on that. Give me the Jeeps.
All right. Game 2, Northwest at Eastern, the second meeting between these two. Believe it or not, Northwest, the only conference loss this season for the number 1 seed in Division 6 for the Eastern Pike Eagles. Ultimately, this one's at home. I know Eastern's coming off of a tough loss to Minford, but a lot of teams came off of tough losses to Minford this season. I'm going to go with Eastern to wrap up the conference title. I think they already clinched it, but they're going to go ahead and wrap it up with a 9-1 conference record heading into the tournament.
Well, they clinched a share.
Oh, they've clinched a share with Sims, I'm guessing?
Yeah, they don't want to share. They beat Sims twice. They want to be able to say, we're the top dogs. They've been outstanding throughout the season. Give me Eastern as well at home.
All right, Game 3, South Gallia at Oak Hill. South Gallia, one of the lower seeds in Division 7. Oak Hill, middle of the pack. I think an opening round matchup with Wheelersburg, potentially on Tuesday, I think. So Oak Hill's season could also be over come this matchup on Wednesday. We saw Oak Hill in person. Joseph Antiby's one of their better players, but got in some foul trouble against Northwest. Ultimately, I'm going to go with Oak Hill to take down the Rebels the same way they did. I think it was a 19-point win the first time around for the Oaks, so they're going to get another one here over South Gallia.
We had this on our list, and we had the name wrong. Like, we saw the name wrong. Carson Stowers for South Gallia had a 10 3-pointer game against Sims Valley earlier this year, 32 points in that game. Only a freshman. Keep an eye on that name. Carson Stowers has been outstanding for South Gallia as only a freshman, but ultimately I'm also going to take the Oaks to defend the Nut House.
Is that what it's called?
I guess. I don't know. For the Oaks. Might as well be. So give me the Oaks.
All right, Game 4, Nelsonville York at Wellston. Nelsonville York a win in their first meeting. This is obviously a TVC Ohio matchup. Currently, as it stands, Wellston leading 27-23 with 2 minutes to go in the first half over West Union. Once again, that is on the road. I'm going to go with Nelsonville York in this one. I know they've had a couple of losses as of late, one to Logan specifically, but I think the Buckeyes get another win over the Rockets in this one.
But for Wellston, they were up 20 on Ross County Christian at the half. About 4 minutes into the second half, they were tied. So don't assume anything on that first half for Wellston. But it's as someone who played their last game after the tournament, it's tough to do. So for those kids at Wellston, it'd be nice for them to get a win going into that game. But Alec Thompson, Bryant Call are going to be a little bit too much. Bean Martin, another one for Nelsonville York. They are a very talented team. who can score in a lot of different ways. So give me Nelsonville in that one as well.
All right, game 5. I think it's the first time we've talked about either of these teams this season. Logan at Taze Valley. Second meeting between these two teams. Logan actually picking up a 2-point win, I believe, over the Vikings at the Jim Myers Gymnasium. I think 5 combined wins between these two teams this season, but they're also both playing in the OCC, so it's not exactly the easiest conference. I think their records would be a little better if they were playing some more Southeast District teams. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Taze Valley in this one to even up the season series with Logan.
They'd have a 1,000-point scorer in Brody Fields. You lost a really talented player before the season, and Nunguster. It's two teams that are just battling for wins throughout. Season on the line. If South Webster wins, it'll come down to this one. So give me the Chieftains
there you go.
to win the quick picks.
There you go. You can come back. I mean, you had to do 2 differences to at least give yourself a chance to win.
Yeah, and usually you can do that with the girls, but we didn't have the girls this week. So,
but I mean, you're picking a home team that's the number 1 team in Division 7, and you're picking a team that won in their last meeting. So I mean, I don't know how much better it could have been. I will say for Wellston, like, they've been playing a lot better the last few games. I told you they got a win over Athens. They're currently beating West Union by 1 now, but I mean, still they're winning in that district. I think that's a district first round game. So yeah, I think I'm not sure what their demographics are in terms of like grade levels if they've got a lot of players coming back, but Wellston seems to be playing a little bit better.
A lot
down
of
their stretch. Okay, well, that may not be good. So
just had to.
All right, gonna go ahead and jump into the tournament breakdowns.
I forgot that we hadn't even done that part.
Yeah, well, I think we're on. We've only been on for about an hour, so I don't think we're.
Well, that's why I was like, "Do we go just crazy quick this time?" But
we still got to do the tournament breakdown. So we do have teams in Division 3, but there's like 4, so we're not going to do that. But just for the record, I would pick Miami Trace to beat Chillicothe, and Warren to beat like whoever they're playing, Marietta, and then Warren to beat Miami Trace.
But Miami Trace, one of the only team, I think it was like 4 teams finished the regular season undefeated. 21
boys and girls, or
boys. Okay. I didn't see the girls number. So like when you mentioned that earlier, I was like, I wanted to say like 4, but then I remembered that.
Did Warren lose to somebody?
Warren lost 2 early. One of them was Monroe Central,
and that's crazy that like really Minford and Fairland could have easily went undefeated, but they both had tight losses to Warren.
Yeah, their only losses were to Warren. Warren is.
I know we said that if Warren beats Miami Trace, because Warren's out of our coverage area technically, even though they're in the Southeast District, we said we weren't going to do that.
And you have to drive past people.
Right. I know we said if Warren makes the D3 final, we won't do it, but we might just do it. Like,
dude, it's going to be a good game. Like, whoever wins that,
we're gonna be there for it anyway. Right. But I think that's the first game of the day. Oh, it's not. Is it in the middle? So like, we're gonna be there anyway, so we might as well.
Well, like someone from Warren just throw us the money to
give us $100.
just give us the money to cover the fee, because our sponsors would, even though it'd be Warren, I'm sure people in the Southeast would still
there are Parmar stores in Warren.
Probably.
I mean,
and if there aren't, there will be soon.
Yeah, that is very true.
But no, it's Warren. Julian Stadelman is awesome. So in those matchups, when they beat Fairland and Minford, those are the only ones where like the point guards were even close in the games between those teams this year, because Stadelman's awesome. Like he's probably going to be a first team All-Ohioan in Division 3 and like can flat out play. And then you got Miami Trace, who's 21-0 for a reason. They've had a lot of tight games, so they know how to win in those situations. It's going to be, man, that'll be a fun game. That one's on the 25th. More than likely, Warren and Miami Trace, that would be at Jim's Gym over at Logan as well. So that'd be a really fun district semifinal. And then the final would be, it'd be the 4:00 game on that 5-game day, which would be either Steubenville or Tri-Valley, more than likely.
All right, so we'll do it similar. Well, we'll do it the exact same as we did for the girls. We'll do Division 4, Division 5, Division 6, and Division 7, and there are timestamps in the description, so you can jump to whichever district you want. We're going to go and we're going to go in numerical order. So like there's 2 districts in each division. So for each division, we'll go Southeast 1, Southeast 2, even though like sometimes the number 1 seed is in the Southeast 2 just based on where they're going after the district tournament. So we'll start with Division 4 and Southeast 1. Really, Division 4, there's not a whole lot of differences for us. Just looking at the district quarterfinal round, we all have Washington, Unioto, and Fairfield Union getting out. We'll approach this kind of similarly to how we did with the girls, but we're not going to talk about each game. I will say Unioto Logan Elm will have that live on Thursday. Logan Elm a big upset over Unioto last season en route to their combo appearance. So I think that's kind of one that, it's a 3-14 game that might get overlooked. But I mean, Logan Elm a big win over ZT last week. And, Unioto kind of dominated the season series this year, but Zane Trace, it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows because you beat the number 2 in Division 4 in Jackson at Jackson, and then you lose. Is it at Logan Elm?
No.
You lose at home to Logan Elm, so it's it's tough. But Logan Elm, I mean, one of the better players in Division 4 with Nehemiah Wall, so it's
thinking about the Unionist schedule. I don't know if they saw a better individual player skill set wise as Nehemiah Wall. Yeah. So that's going to be
and Wall. I think had a buzzer beater, or it was like made with like a second.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if Unioto got a shot off.
It was like 3/4 court, but so seeing that back, they had the ball. Logan Elm had the ball the last play of the game to try to win the game in overtime against Zane Trace. Wall ran the exact same play. He drives down the right side, gets to about the outside of the lane, hits it right-footed, spins back into the lane, and tries to hit a little floater. Missed it in that one. He scored it against Unioto to win that game. So I think I know if it comes down to the last second shot, I think I know where Wall's going, but you still got to stop it because he's a very talented player. For the Braves, and their secondary scorers have started to knock down some shots throughout the year. Speeds has been really good for them, Nefas as well. So if those guys can knock down some shots, which Unioto guards the 3-point line really well, if Unioto doesn't guard the 3-point line well in that game, then it's going to be a dogfight.
And then one other interesting game, the Southeast 2, or the Southeast 1 is a little more interesting than the Southeast 2, just based on our picks. We both have Washington getting an upset win on the road at Waverly. Washington played Jackson and Miami Trace pretty tight this season.
Yeah, they lost the 1-point game to Jackson, which you can see on our YouTube. I would imagine that it was tough. I watched the end of the fourth. The end of the fourth was pretty good because Justin Everhart started hitting some shots and made things a lot more interesting.
He's a junior, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be excited to have him back.
Well, he's a junior. Haycock's a junior.
Lose Chechevsky, but
but I think everyone else is back really that does a lot of scoring for them. But they've had a ton of close games throughout the year. Waverly's starting to fall apart a little bit down the stretch, but man, they're
talented.
They're talented. Their end of the season schedule has been really tough. So it wouldn't surprise me if they won that one. But as you mentioned, Washington has played Jackson close twice and Miami Trace close. The Washington or the second Jackson game, I think, was either 8 or 9 points. So it wasn't like a bad game. I think it was like 38-29. They had scored 58 total points against them. I do know that.
So is there a game plan you think maybe Washington takes on against Waverly? Or maybe there's a way that Waverly slows down? Obviously they have the freshman Cage Alexander, who's done a lot of great things this season. Tegan Hurt's probably one of the better spot-up shooters in Southern Ohio. And then,
which, for me, that's been the most pleasant surprise from them. Like, you had heard some stuff about Alexander, but...
And the Myers twins, obviously.
Last year, I didn't think did a whole lot on JV, and then... when he got into varsity,
JV,
huh?
I mean, I'm still shocked that Davion McBride doesn't get it. He was pretty exciting to watch against Southeastern's JV team, but
But yeah, Hurt seems like he's grown in just confidence throughout there. He had a really big game against Logan. I think for Washington, you gotta keep it tight and use Haycock, but you got to have Everhart knock down some shots. If he's able to knock down shots, that's going to keep them in range, and but it will be hard to slow down Cage Alexander and Landon Russell if they're on the same page and getting going. Because, like I mentioned, the end of the season schedule for Waverly has been really tough, but lost a 2-point game to Miami Trace in there. They've played some other really tight games throughout as well. So I think they are a yeah. I was going to talk about that when we got to D5, but yeah, I think Washington and Waverly might have the capability to be that best game. New Lexington and
We're not even there yet.
Oh, I
We're
didn't
still
know
on
we were.
Southeast
I thought you were
one.
just talking about the first round.
No, we're still on the Southeast one.
Sorry.
So we both have Unioto and Jackson getting out of the district semis, and then I have Unioto picking up the district final when this is obviously a rematch of their regular season matchup. I think they typically play each other just about every year.
Yeah.
You have Jackson finishing the season series 2-0 against Unioto.
Yeah, it's it's not been a good matchup the last 2 years. I think Jackson's kind of done whatever they wanted against Unioto, and they're the only team that's made Unioto look bad for both the last 2 years. And I do think that the wider court might give Unioto a little more advantage if you get down to the convo. So I do think that would be an interesting matchup.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the Southeast 2. We'll just kind of quickly fly through this as we all have, I guess not quickly, there's a few talking points we can go over, but we both have the exact same picks for this one. We both have Hillsborough, New Lexington, and Circleville getting out of the district quarterfinal round. And then obviously Meg's going to probably pick up a win over Hillsborough. New Lexington is...
That's a terrible trip.
What?
Hillsborough to Meg's?
Yeah.
Would that still be at the better seat?
No, that's a Southeastern.
Oh, okay. That's not nearly...
Yeah, only the district quarterfinals and first rounder at the better seed. But
wait, who's at Hillsborough? Benton County. That's a bad one.
Yeah,
that's a bad trip.
But one of the more interesting stories for me, and I'm kind of just now noticing it because they're not in our coverage areas. New Lexington this season is, you looked at their team a season ago, they finished 21-5, and their team this year, and it's borderline the exact same team, but I think they finished the regular season at 12-10, kind of dragging their feet to the finish. I think Isaiah Stevens is their number one guy, and he's missed some time, and their second to last game, he took 4 shots, and that was his first game back. And there's no box score for their last game, but they had a 1-point win over a 4-18 team. So you kind of wonder, what's going on with them. A team that had I think it was a district final appearance last year.
Lost in overtime to Warren.
Right. Yeah. What a crazy game. I remember being at that one. But more than likely going to have a matchup with Circleville in the district semis. We both have Circleville getting out of that one. And then we both have Megs finishing up as a district title or as a district champion in Division 4. So,
yeah, what I was going to say, I was going to talk about the New Lexington team a little bit because Isaiah Stevens is awesome when he's healthy, but it doesn't seem like he's healthy. Bentley Hansen is another one. They're very guard oriented. Corey Adams seemed like he was getting going for them in that last one, but it was like he was getting going because Stevens couldn't do it. And it's a Westfall team that has not played very good defense throughout the year, but they really competed well at Megs to end the next to the last regular season game. But they go to Megs, compete pretty well over there. I don't think they can. I don't think they can beat New Lexington. But if Stevens is not healthy, I kind of never know. Joe Ray has been outstanding throughout the season, averaging over 20 points a game. If you didn't get a chance to watch the Westfall RCCA game, if you want to see some points, watch that one back. Ended up being 92-80, and those guys didn't play the last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. Might have been the last 3, but Ray had a really good game. Brian Craig, that's a team to keep an eye on because they have a couple of solid seniors, but really their top 2 scorers are coming back. So, I think New Lexington wins that game. That one's going to be one, like I said, to keep an eye on.
It is freezing in here.
It's not warm.
It's not warm at all. All right, we can go ahead and move on to the Division 5 tournament. Once again, we'll start out with the Southeast 1, a game going on right now. We both have West Union getting out of the district first round matchup. That's the only district first round on the Southeast 1 side. There's also a Southeast 2 district first round game going on that looks like we're both going to probably get wrong, but we'll go over that in a second. As West Union, we both have winning, currently trailing by 1 after the first half. So we'll maybe have a final on that by the time we get to the end of Division 7, but I'm not sure we'll take quite that long. So for the Southeast one, we both have Minford, South Point, Ironton, and St. Trace advancing to February 24th's district semifinal night. We both have Minford moving on. I have Ironton picking up a win over St. Trace. You have the Pioneers pulling off the, technically an upset win, as they're 1 seed lower than Ironton. And this was kind of a talking point for us either last week or the week before. And it was like, is St. Trace at 5 just a little bit underseeded, maybe just because their strength of schedule wasn't quite as strong as the 2 OVC or the 3 OVC teams that are above them?
Really, before the Logan Elm game, they had not lost to a team that
Right, it's like 39-2 or something was their...
Yeah, it was a 21-0 and 19-3, out of their 3 losses. But then you lose at home to Logan Elm, and that kind of, raises some questions there. But still, even then, I picked them to go over Ironton. Shrek rolled an ankle against Chesapeake, and then they did not play well against Rock Hill, but they still won. So, I mean... And he played in that game, so I think he'll probably play. But that's something to keep an eye on in that one. I think that one could be maybe, and maybe the physicality of that may hurt St. Trace. But Ironton is a much deeper team, so I think that's a game to keep an eye on for sure, because I think it could be a real battle. Where's that game at? That's at the downtown gym, right?
Yes, on February 24th. Those are the 2 divisions. That's the 8:30 game.
Yeah, so those will be some fun games, because South Point, has had a little bit of a down season, but they still got some nice pieces, I think. And at the very least, like, Minford is super fun to watch regardless. Can go ahead and tell you it is Gavin Jarvis.
Did you know who I was looking for?
Yeah, was it?
Whoever number 5 is. Yeah, Gavin Jarvis. Holy crap. I mean, to start the second half, he hits probably should have been an and 1-3, and then has a breakaway and 1 layup. So he's...
how many points does he average?
Only 12.5.
Okay, check his thing, though. I think he had like 36 in a game.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was... Because I'm sitting here, I have the West Union Wellston game pulled up. 38 against
38.
Ripley.
Yeah, believe it or not. I have to say it.
I got it that time.
Yeah, I know you did, but...
That was a pretty good start to the second half for the seniors. Looks like West Union. Now they're winning by 5.
Western not good at coming out of the locker room. So
the second half locker room, that is.
Yeah.
So we didn't really get to talk about it a whole lot. So for St. Trace and Ironton matchup wise, what do you think favors the Pioneers? Inside with Gunnar McCullough?
I think, man, that'll be a fun matchup with Lane and McCullough.
2 high motors.
Yeah, high motors, very athletic guys that'll come back next year. I think for St. Trace, their ability to shoot, and then you're playing at Waverly, where it's a shooter's gym anyway, and I don't think Ironton shoots as well. So I think that would be maybe
they've got a couple guys that can
do it.
Yeah. Tyler Roach and Bryce Markins and Tyler Roach. Mm-hmm. I mean, those 2 guys can chuck it.
Right, and maybe not at the most ideal times, like in that Chesapeake game, but it may be that too, where they're up 9 against Chesapeake with 1:26 left, and they end up losing in overtime because they just kept taking shots. And maybe that's something that gets addressed in this last week. But I think between that,
they went to overtime with Fairland.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's a very good team. It's just, I think there's some inconsistency.
Imagine if Sean Terry was still there, right? I mean,
athletically, that'd be...
Yeah. They're probably the most through and through athletic team in our coverage areas. They've got a ton of dual and 3 sport guys do the Fighting Tigers. But whether it's Ironton or St. Trace, we both have Minford picking up their first district title in 30 years. I think 95 was their last one. So
and lost in the regional final to
Unioto. I don't know.
Wheelersburg.
Oh, Wheelersburg.
Which I think they beat them both times during the season. So it was like, or maybe they split. But I just know it was a regional final. All
right, we'll go ahead and move on to the Southeast 2 in Division 5. We both had Piketon getting out of the district first round, although they're trailing by
13
to River Valley, who River Valley had a pretty tough season, although River Valley, one of their 2 wins over a conference champion.
Yeah,
so
they beat Southern. I don't know why I said.
Southern has some very questionable
Oh, we'll
losses
get to
this
that.
year, but now Division 7 is quite interesting for us. But yeah, we both have Piketon getting out of that one, but it looks like that could be our first bracket buster. Is the Red Streaks trailing by double digits at home in the second half. But other than Piketon, we have the same set of contests for the district semis with Fairland and Wheelersburg and Chesapeake and Eastern Brown advancing out of the district quarterfinals. The plan now is for us to be down at the Waverly Downtown Gymnasium on February 25th to have these 2 district semis, so Fairland and Wheelersburg at 6 and Chesapeake and Eastern Brown at 8:30. Just looking at the district semi schedule throughout all the divisions, I think this is probably the best night of basketball. I think the night before, Ironton and Zane Trace will be good. I'm not sure how good Minford and South Point will be. It would have been really good last year, but I'm just not sure how good the Pointers really match up with the Falcons this season. Move on to the district finals. I have Fairland moving on. We both do, actually. I have the Panthers of Chesapeake advancing to the convo. You have Eastern Brown picking up the upset win over the Panthers.
That's where ours is going to go. Yeah. All kinds of sideways, yeah. But yeah, I think that one, I don't know.
After you told me you didn't think Eastern Brown matched up with Chesapeake very well.
I don't know how they match up with anybody. Like, I don't know how the teams match up with each other at all in that matchup. But yeah, it's I don't know. It was just a hunch. I think Eastern Brown's they've won a ton of games in a row to end the season.
It felt like they were maybe a year ahead of schedule last year.
But like Cade Walkup hit 5 threes the other night, so maybe that gets him going a little bit. I think Grady Barber and Maddox Kizzy could be a really fun matchup with each other.
Yeah, that could be a bit of a throwback matchup between those two, and that's kind of what you were getting at. Is that's kind of where this bracket's going to shake up a little bit for us. Is I have Chesapeake winning in the district final over Fairland. They've lost 2 tie ones. They gotta win one at some point. So
or at the very least go to overtime again.
Yeah, go to double overtime again. So yeah, that's kind of where our brackets are going to shake up a little bit. Is you have Chesapeake not even making it to the combo, and I have them moving to the regional tournament. So that'll be a fun one to track. I hope I'm right, just for the sake of getting to watch Chesapeake. Getting to watch that game again. Chesapeake and Fairland one more time. So we'll go ahead and move on to Division 6. We'll start with the Southeast 1. One of our few differences, this game is tomorrow night, district first round, Federal Hocking and Portsmouth Clay. I have the Lancers. You have the Panthers. I couldn't think of what they were. Other than that, we're the exact same in the Southeast 1 as we
were almost very different.
We were. We both have North Adams. We both have Rock Hill picking up an upset win on the road over Belpre. Rock Hill has been, at the time of seeding, they were 6-13 off the top of my head. I'm not sure where they sit right now. I would guess probably 6-16 maybe, because they had a tight loss to Ironton, but they've just randomly competed with, they had a 1 point loss to Ironton. They beat Notre Dame, who's the number 2 seed in Division 7.
They had a 1 point loss to Chesapeake.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Rock Hill, it just seems like they're capable of, from time to time, competing with some of these top of the line teams, and I think they're going to pick up a win over Belpre
6-15
on the 21st. So they must have missed a non-conference game.
Yeah, it was. I think maybe it was Sims, and it just wasn't getting made up. It was something tonight.
Speaking of Sims, we both have them taking down Huntington, and we have Southeastern defeating Peebles. And we both have North Adams and Sims advancing to the convo, where we both have North Adams winning their 3rd consecutive district title. Sims has played really good and I saw Sims Valley probably at one of their lower points with that 19-point loss on the road at Eastern. But North Adams, when they get on the convo floor, I don't know what it is, but they just don't lose, because they got beat by Minford by double digits. Not this season. Well, this season
they did
severely, but for 2 seasons in a row, they lost to Minford on a smaller court. They get on the bigger court and they win. They just win at the combo, and that's just what they do. And I just had a tough time picking against them. They've struggled a little bit in the non-conference this season. This is going to be a non-conference matchup, is pretty much as all of their tournament games are going to be. But they win at the Convo, and that's basically my reasoning for picking them.
My reasoning,
and also Sims Valley does not
guard the three at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
they don't guard the 3-point line very well, or at least they didn't against Tucker Leicht when we were there.
Or that we just talked about.
What?
For South Gaia.
Oh, Carson Stowers.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's
as I wanted to say, as impressive of a win as it was. That's what I was trying to get.
There you go. Got it out. But yeah, I think with what North Adams is able to do from the 3-point line, it looks like they're really starting to get in a groove from long range like they were last year at the tournament, like they were 2 years ago at the tournament. It feels like they are in a hot stretch right now, and
like Carson Osborne might score 30 points in this game.
They are they're very talented anyway, but like those guys, they've gotten hot in a variety of games this year. I mean, we watched them at by far their all-time worst, lose by 39 over at Minford, and then what was it? 3 days later, they go to South Webster and are tied with 10 seconds left in the game. So you just you never know what you're going to get at times with that North Adams team, unless it's at the combo, and then you know.
Now, you mentioned you thought Unioto was a team that would kind of benefit from playing on the bigger floor, and I think North Adams is one of those teams as well.
But my first viewing last year of Ethan Smith was at the combo, and I thought he looked really impressive in that one. So ultimately, I'm worried about Sims and Huntington. Frankie Hirsch is ridiculous. He's a second team All SVC player that probably should have been first team. I mean, 16 points a game. He's in the top 5 in points, rebounds, assists in the SVC. Only a sophomore, and he's a do it all kind of guy. And they are, they're playing much better in the second half of the year. They almost beat a good Nelsonville team. Really, probably should have beat a good Nelsonville team. And in their season, they played Zane Trace tight in their last matchup. And ultimately, I think they aren't a great physical matchup with Sims Valley, but I do think Sims Valley is a little deeper, so I think they'll get the win there. But North Adams, what did I say? Not close. Like I put in parentheses, not close or by a lot or something in that for the final. So ultimately, I think it is North Adams is to lose, where they've been kind of the underdog the last couple of years. Let's see how they do as the top dog.
Wellston trailing by 4 now. Or Wellston leading by 4.
Wellston leading by 4? Like they're only down by 4.
Okay, we're the team we need to win is coming back, and the team that we need to win is.
But we got the same, so it doesn't really matter. But
I want a perfect bracket. I want all perfect brackets. I already lost in the girls, but all right. We'll go ahead and move on to the Southeast 2, another district first round. This one's tonight. I don't know if you have any updates on this one, but
which one was it?
It's Adena and Ripley.
I can pull it up.
We both have Adena getting out of the district first round for the opportunity to head to Beaver to take on the number 1 seed Eastern. We both have Eastern Pike and Eastern Megs advancing to the district semis, and on the other side of the bracket, we both have Valley taking down Paint Valley. I kind of went out on a limb here. I had Lynchburg Clay beating Portsmouth West. You have West advancing. Either way, we both have Valley going to the district final to take on Eastern Pike. This was a tough one for me. I pick Eastern, but Valley's just been playing so good.
You're right.
But Eastern has too. Now, they had a tough one against Minford. Pretty much everybody that's played Minford has had a tough one against the Falcons, but Eastern is so dynamic offensively, and they have so many guys that can do it. And unfortunately for me, I just didn't get a chance to see Valley in person this season, so I just don't have a whole lot to go off of. But I know they've been playing better. That's why I have them going to the district final. But ultimately, and really for you have West advancing to the district semis to take on Valley. I mean, and we all know West is a little bit more down now than they were for the first half of the season. Even as down as they are, West beat Valley a week or two ago. So, we could see potentially West advance to the district final. But ultimately, we both have Eastern.
Yeah, they lost without Wolfenbarker.
And they won.
Or they won without Wolfenbarker and lost with Wolfenbarker. Yeah. So, yeah. By the way, just based off of these other 2 scores, can you guess what the Adena, how much Adena's winning by?
Are they winning by 8?
4. Oh. Yeah. So the first round matchups have been really good so far tonight. So Piketon only down by 1. River Valley up. Well, River Valley up
Wilson,
3.
West Union
3.
down 2. Come on, Dragons.
Yeah.
In the North Adams / Peebles / West Union gym.
Yeah,
the exact same gym.
The Adams County were all the same gym.
All right. We got anything else? I mean, as somebody who has seen Eastern and Valley, just give me a little rundown on that one because I haven't seen them.
I think Valley will zone them, and they'll do a good job in their zone. I think it'll be a really fun matchup between like Christian Coppin and Tucker Leist. I think that the depth advantage goes to now. When I saw them, the depth advantage goes to Eastern Pike, where Eastern doesn't get a lot of scoring from their depth, but like Wyatt Richardson plays really good defense for them. I think Declan Davis can really be that number 2 scorer for them as well and do it at a high level. I'm trying to think of the sophomore.
Boston Webb,
yeah. And I don't know why I blanked on it because I just saw him on Saturday, but I think Valley has a lot of underclassmen that can really do it. It's just I don't if they can get Eastern to play their style to be a half court game to keep it in the 40s and 50s. Yeah, that's what I was turning down. If they can keep it in the 40s, I think they've got a chance in that one. I do think if Eastern can get them running, I think that's more an advantage for Eastern. But
West Union.
Ultimately, I do think that's got a chance to be a really good game. But West could really mess some things up. But as you've got Lynchburg picked, I think that's gonna be a sneaky first round game because Denver Clinton can really fill it up.
They've got a few players that can get it done, and that's probably not the shortest trip, Lynchburg to Portsmouth West.
No, but also West's zone, if Lynchburg can get some shots to fall from deep, but maybe that zone is going to make things tougher on Denver Clinton because Denver Clinton can really drive the ball.
Yeah, probably one of the top. I'm not sure where he sits currently, but Denver Clinton's probably one of the few front runners for Shack Player of the Year next year. Him, Brody Smith, Griffin Friend might sneak up in there. I'm not super familiar with the rest of the Shack outside of the teams, and Brady Barber, obviously. But Denver Clinton, one of the premier players in the Shack. So I think anytime you have one of the better players on the floor, you have an opportunity to win the game. So last division, Division 7. We'll start with the Southeast one, as the Southeast 2 is a lot more fun for us as what?
Switch a commercial in the middle of a play on a live stream.
Oh, like YouTube's in it.
Yeah. Like, come on. You can't send that wait till the break.
All right.
Or on a replay.
So we've got a little bit, we got a few differences in Division 7. One of them coming in the district quarterfinals. I have Ironton St. Joe getting to the district semis. You have White Oak coming out of that one. And then we both have Fairfield and Western advancing to the district semis for their rematch. Western, obviously, a 2-point win on the road at Fairfield it was not Cam James. It was Drew Haggy with a steal and a run out to ultimately seal that win for the Indians. One of their few close games that actually went their way, as they've lost a lot of close games this season. Any reason for the White Oak and Ironton St. Joe pick? I don't remember my reasoning, but I made it.
No, I know what it was. I saw like a tweet. It was like on the for you from one of the seniors from White Oak, and it was like moderately inspiring. And I thought that was a toss-up game anyway. So give me the Wildcats.
West Union's hanging around. Yeah, I don't remember my reasoning.
Having Jarvis can really
he's
play.
Nice. Yeah, he's nice. I don't remember my reasoning, but there was some logic behind it. Regardless, we both have.
You're a big Dayton Flyers fan, so you have to take the Flyers.
There it was. We both have Fairfield and South Webster advancing to the district final. It's interesting. Western beats Fairfield, but we both have the Lions. Oh my gosh, dude!
Telling you, this dude could play. Like I saw him 2 years ago. He can really play.
What was his name? Gavin Jarvis?
Gavin Jarvis. If he was at a bigger school, we would be talking about him all the time.
Gavin Jarvis should have went to North Adams.
Yeah, and if he's at a bigger school, he probably averages more points because I'm sure he's probably the top, second, and third on the scouting report.
Gavin Jarvis is having a night as they trail by 2, potentially 3. But we both have South Webster and Fairfield advancing to March 2nd's district final. That's one of the last 2 games. It's at 6 p.m. We both have South Webster winning the district final. I find it hard to believe any of these D7 teams can, and anything can happen, especially at the combo, but I just think South Webster is just so good, especially in Division 7.
Yeah, they're a team that is going to be really hard to stop just because matchup-wise, I don't know if any of these teams really do. Maybe if you throw Fairfield with, McIntosh might be able to physically, he's only a couple inches shorter than Roberts. And I think they've got a variety of guys that can do some positive things for Fairfield. I think they'll also come in with a really interesting game plan in that. I really had them on the ropes last year. I think it was a 3-point game in the regional semifinal. So I think maybe for me, when I made that pick, it was just kind of hoping to see that one again. But I will say, with our picks that we each made on the bottom half, I kind of wish that either Fairfield or Western would have slid up into the 3. And
no, the Southeast 2 in Division 7, I think, is our most fun district because we've got some picks. So I'll go ahead and flash it up on the screen now so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So we both have Green and Southern getting out of the district quarterfinals. I have 4 wins, South Gallia taking down Manchester. You have Manchester winning. Gets funnier. I have South Gallia advancing to the district final, taking down Southern. You have Manchester beating Southern. So regardless, we both have Southern getting taken down in the district semis. We both have Notre Dame taking down Green, but ultimately we both have the Titans picking up a district final win. Give me South Gallia for Cinderella Team of the Year. 4 wins in the regular season. They're going to get 3 more in the tournament as they're playing at the combo this year. Carson Stowers is going to hit 23s in the 2 games combined. And you know what? They might just win a District 2 because they only lost to Notre Dame by 13, I think, in the regular season. So, why did South Gallia was in the TVC Hawking, right?
Yes.
So did they just decide they were playing Southern twice this year because
it's probably just
they're like,
hey, we're tired of making these trips.
Like we used to be in the TVC Hawking, so because South Gallia, you want to know what my reasoning was for?
Oh, I'm excited for this.
So South Gallia, obviously SOC2, Manchester and the Shack. They both played New Boston. South Gallia beat New Boston by more than Manchester did. They beat them by 19, and Manchester beat them by 13. And then South Gallia beat Southern this year. They split with Southern. They beat Southern by more than Southern beat them.
Okay.
So that's why South Gallia is going to the combo.
I'm fine with it. I'm good with that.
That would be a fun one to be right on.
I think it was the fact that Peoples beat Southern by approximately 700 the other day. It was a 20-point win. I'm like, whoa.
And we don't have it yet, but Southeastern probably going to beat them again tonight. I mean, Southeastern's a 15-win, will be probably a 15-win team after that. But for Southern, you're the 3 seed. You win your first TVC Hawking title in
a long time,
a while. But outside of the conference, they've struggled a little bit. It seems. Losses to River Valley, 3-win, 4-win South Gallia. It's give me the Rebels. Rebels are making a run this year.
I will
give me the Rebels to go on a 2016 Southeastern run.
I'll take the Greyhounds.
Either way,
to race their way to a district runner-up. But that was back when I started watching the Division 4 area. It was South Gallia, Manchester were 2 of the top teams. Manchester had a nice little run for a while. I think they made it to the Elite 8. Might have been twice. But ultimately, I do think Notre Dame is probably the best team in there. I will say this. We've talked about this a little bit. I don't know if we've talked about them playing tournament games there, but how about Waverly High School?
Getting Division 7.
Yeah, getting some.
What night is are those the same night as ours? No, those are on the 26th. Here's what I'll say. If South Gallia goes to Manchester and wins, I'm going to go out of my way to go to the Southern South Gallia game.
Yeah. Go up on the hill. We'll go on the hill and we'll cheer.
That'll be a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So, won't have anything on the plate. I'll make a trip up there, see what's going on.
It's not very far from the old Studio 33.
No. Plus, I want to... If I could watch
You're
my...
gonna go get Cardo's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I have to get it before.
Oh, that's true, because they close at like 4.
Cardo's might close before that game starts.
Well, you just take it in.
Yeah.
I will say, I won't say the school, but I talked to one of your old coaches.
You think?
I don't know. Did you play junior high football for David Page?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's not his name though.
Tommy
Bompop.
Yeah, Tommy Bompop. So Tommy Bompop and I went up and we watched a game. It might have been before the game. Either way, we were at Cardo's in Waverly, and I was like, "Hey, if
the old one,
yeah, if they lose, well, the one on Bridge Street getting ready to reopen.
There's one on Bridge Street reopening,
or maybe it's Circleville. There's one that's reopening.
I know there used to be one at. Is there still one at Triple Crown, or is that not a thing?
I don't know if it's still there or not. I've tried to avoid Triple Crown since.
So you were at the one. So where were you at? You were at the one in Chillicothe.
No, I was at the one in Waverly.
So the old one. In Waverly.
So it was before sectional games down at the downtown gym. Hey, Adena wins. Yeah. So don't highlight it since I screwed that up. 40-30. It's over Ripley. So
nice. Is Piketon?
Piketon's down 6 with. It went down to 2 minutes. Now it's 2:06. I don't know.
Oh, there's 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Oh, they're done. Come on, Piketon.
But what's the score?
Ooh. I think West Union's going to win. Piketon's going to ruin our perfect bracket.
Yeah. But we were there, and it was a team that did well in their league, and they had to run into a team that, let's say, not Ironton, maybe similar colors, but they're playing at the downtown gym, so probably not that team that has similar colors. But they shockingly made a playoff run, and then because of their playoff run, they got off to a really slow start in the regular season. And so they were an 8 seed and had to play the 1 seed in the sectional final. And they beat them. But before we went, I said to Tommy Bompop, I said, "Hey, watch this. Watch what happens if they lose. If they lose, they're going to fire their coach." They did, and that was like 4 coaches ago.
We're talking about Wheelersburg.
Might have won the game,
right?
Yeah, but that's who they beat. But it was injuries. So, and then that coach is about to win his 15th game at Southeastern now.
Nice.
Yeah,
he's turned that team around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, he really
season
did.
Over
he did
500.
He did a good job at St. Trace. It was just that I think that was right when the Unioto run started, and they lost in the sectionals a couple straight years, and that was kind of
they in one layup. They down 3 now.
They just split a pair, and now the clock's running for some reason. But yeah, so it's a fun show. Really some top line effort here at the end. You might have picked them too soon.
No, they're good.
Gavin Jarvis, baby.
It's not even.
You might have to tag him in this just because like how much we're talking about him at the end of this.
We're just sitting here watching him win his last home game at West Union, unless Wellston. Well, yeah.
Oh, good defense.
Piketon, you let me down.
Not yet. There's still 2 minutes left. They can shoot it.
They're down 5,
but they can shoot it.
It's over.
Probably.
We give up the 3rd one of the year to River Valley.
Hey, River Valley beat Southern. So, who I would say is arguably one of the favorites for get to the district.
I disagree.
I do too. But...
They're my 3rd pick on that section. All right. I think that's about it. We kind of started dragging at the end, but it's because all of our district first round games that we picked are coming down to the wire here. So hopefully Piketon can pick up the win off the air. That's what we had last
year with Westfall at
Fairfield Girls. Yeah. So this week, if you want to tune into some games, if you're still watching at this time, I'd be surprised if a lot of people are. Did River Valley score again?
Oh, they made both free throws, which is never a good thing. Oh. Count it. Oh, come on. He got fouled.
All right. Games this week for us, if you've seen them on the ticker, they actually just went by. We'll be at Logan on Wednesday for Unioto and Sheridan girls. We'll be at Unioto Thursday for Logan Elman Unioto boys, and then we'll be at Southeastern on Saturday for the Division IV girls basketball district title. So there's like some D6 games that day. We low-key might end up doing those.
We'll see.
That's not for sure, but for sure we'll do the D4 games. But yeah, that's about it.
Those are the games that are locked in.
Right.
And we may, we'll see.
All right. You got anything extra?
Hey, they're only down 3 with a minute left.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Come on. Kyle Miller and direct
streaks. First team All SBC Bo Henry.
He's got to get an N1.
He should have got an N1. That was a cheap no call.
All right. You good? Get out of here. Next week we'll obviously recap all the girls district champs. Maybe preview a little bit of that regional tournament. And then we'll preview probably our 2 games we'll have Tuesday night is the 25th.
Yeah.
February's gone by a lot faster than January did.
Yeah. And we'll say, hey, just watch all of the games of the Convo because we got them.
Yeah, we will literally have every Southeast District boys game at the Convo.
Yeah, Southeast versus Southeast, and there's a possibility of the other one as well.
All right, that'll wrap it up for episode 64 of SOSA Overtime, presented by Perfection 1.